الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما تعلمنا وزدنا بفضلك علما وتعليما إنك على كل شيء قدير. So inshallah we have little time. Inshallah we'll try and cover everything I do today. So I don't know if anybody's following. You should be able to see the slides. I don't have that many slides. They're not that detailed, but it would be useful if you see the slides. It's useful inshallah. So Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So when we talk about creed, right, what do you believe? What's your aqidah? We're talking about facts, right? Things that we know as a fact, right? You don't leave Islam for disbelieving something that's possibly right, possibly false, right? When you say I believe in Allah, it means I know that Allah exists, right? When you say I believe, for example, in paradise, you mean because it's a fact, right? As opposed to, for example, an opinion, right? So I have an opinion. I believe, for example, that the Prophet ﷺ said, "Innamal a'malu binniyat," but I don't know that. Okay, well, why don't you know that? Because only one person told us that. And whenever a hadith or Quran, doesn't matter what the content is, a story, whatever, whenever it comes from one person, it's not necessarily a fact because there's room for error, right? And so when we talk about creed, we're talking about things that are blatantly obvious, clear, right? And so when we talk about heaven and hell, which is today's topic, it's pretty obvious. Like, what do you believe about heaven and hell? It's like, yeah, like, basic stuff, right? And so we want to just go through very, very basically what do we believe in, and then we want to go through the details. Why? Because when you go through some of the details, it helps you grab hold of that, right? That's what you do when you're writing an essay. You're like the cat scratched the guy's face. You're like, okay, cool. When you start giving the details, the lion of the cat, threw its claws into the blood of his face. Suddenly put details, it suddenly feels more realistic, right? So when we learn, when we just get a few, inklings of what the Prophet told us about heaven and hell, it helps us deepen our understanding and deeper appreciation for heaven and hell. Even though it's not creed itself, because what's creed? What is factual? There's no question about it. When we go to the details, if you take every independent hadith, if it's sahih, it means we have great confidence in it. And we have very little reason to suspect it. But it's not a fact because it's made by one person. Most hadiths are like that, one person. Right? Sayyidina Anas said this, Abu Hurairah said it. When you have, for example, hadith that what we call mutawatir, mass transmitted, for example, Laylatul Isra Mi'raj, it wasn't like one person who said it. It's not like, it's the Hanafi say it or Bukhari quotes it. It's like, it's everywhere, right? It's everywhere. It's something that's just known. So either you believe it and you're a Muslim, or you don't believe you're not a Muslim, right? Whereas I don't particularly believe in this or that. It's like, yeah, well, why? Number one, it's something that is questionable to begin with because there's room for error. So you cannot leave Islam for that. You might be sinful, you might be proud, you might be whatever, ignoring something for no reason. But when you say iman and kufr, it's something that is fact. I know the Prophet ﷺ said it, I know what he meant, and I'm denying it. Okay, sorry, bro, you left Islam. As opposed to something which could be interpreted in other ways, or there's some room for it, right? That's not what's called creed. Okay, so creed is whatever is 100% authentic, 100% crystal clear. There's no other possible way of understanding that verse of the Quran. No possibility the Prophet didn't say that. No possibility he meant something else. Khalas, that's Islam, right? And then there's other things there's room for debate, right? And so what do we believe in? For example, we believe that we're going to die. Does anybody here not think that they're going to live forever on earth? No, right? If you read the Quran, read the Hadith, it's pretty clear that we're all going to die. That's part of our creed, is that you're going to die. People don't live forever. Even Sayyidina Isa, he will come back and he will die, right? That we have what we call a corporeal resurrection. Big words, right? Corporeal, corpus means your body, right? Corporeal resurrection, actually your body will come out of the ground. It's not like a spiritual change that will happen to you, like, you live in this life and then you'll kind of go into the psychology of the grave. Like, no, you will actually go in the grave and then you'll actually physically come out of the grave. Right? This is something that is very clear in the Quran and very clear in the Hadith. This is what we believe as creed, is fact. The Prophet ﷺ said it. Either he was a liar or he wasn't. But we know he said it. And you've got to make the decision, is it true or not? Iman and kufr. As opposed to get the nitty-gritty details. Did he say this or do that? When we get to the details, that's not creed. Why? Because most of these things aren't known as absolute facts. They are most likely the case. But we can't divide somebody between iman and kufr on that basis. Right? So we believe in what we call a corporeal resurrection, right? We believe that, for example, there's such thing as the gathering and the waiting, that people will be taken out of the grave, right? And they'll be all gathered and they'll be waiting for their judgment, right? We believe in a judgment day. We believe that there are scales. Okay, but there's a debate. Okay, what's going to happen then? How are deeds weighed exactly? Do deeds transform into physical things that are weighed? Or is the paper weighed? Oh, it's a debate. Okay, there's not iman and kufr there. That's an issue of debate. Just try and find out, read the different hadith, see what's more likely. It's great. But that can't be creed because there's room for discussion. Whenever there's room for discussion, we can't call it creed, right? So there will be scales, that there will be a pool, the held, that there will be a bridge over hellfire, that there is such thing as paradise and such thing as hell, right? And so I'll give you an example, another issue, again, it's not a point of creed. Will anybody ever come out of hell?
Yes.
Okay, will disbelievers come out of hell? No. It's pretty clear. When I read the Quran, when I read the hadith, it's very clear to me. Okay? Certain scholars came along and they said, actually, there will come a time where hell will close. It's like, what? So that's an extremely weak position and a weird position, and it's wrong. Like, that's not what it says in the Quran and hadith. But as long as this guy has some reason to say it, there's some room, you can't label him as a kafir. You can't call him kafir. Why? Because he has not one chance of a debate. So khalas, he's not saying I reject what the Prophet said. He says I'm interpreting in a weird way that nobody agrees with. Right? So he's wrong. There's a difference between me labeling his wrong and labeling him as a kafir. Why? Because that guy's weird, he has weird beliefs. So I'm pointing just example, right? Right? That guy's weird and he's got weird beliefs. But you can't label him as a kafir. Why? Because there's not one chance that he's right. That he's got some kind of what we call a shubha, right? There is some kind of, he is not denying revelation. He just has a really weird interpretation of it based on really weak evidence. It's like, what are you talking about, right? So it's our responsibility to call that person out and say, excuse me, that's bid'ah and that's wrong, but I'm not going to label him as a kafir, right? Two different things, right? Somebody has a Christmas tree. Okay, that's haram. That's haram. But I'm going to call him kafir? No, because there's some room that you say, oh, it's just a cultural thing, right? So I'm not going to. So it's very easy for me to say I disagree with you. Very easy for me to say what you're doing is haram or makruh. Kafir. And that's why the Prophet said to your brother, don't say kafir, because if he's not a kafir, then you're the one who's labeling yourself as a kafir. Don't do that. Right? And this again, we mentioned this before. What is it? People love this thing because it gives you so much power. Right? Imagine I want to be the imam of the mosque, and I can label the imam of the mosque as a kafir. Like, yeah. Then I'm like, it's only me and my group. It gives you power. Right? You find it with not to be racist at all, but you find it in certain communities. It's more interesting because it gives them power. Minorities love that. Minority Muslims love that. It's like, yeah, we're the only true Muslims because everyone else is kuffar. How? Because they haven't read this book. It's like, dude, they haven't read this book, they would leave Islam. So yeah, we're the only Muslims, right? So this is not how it works, right? Creed is very simple. Something is blatantly obvious. That's Islam. That's Islam. If you debate it, khalas, you're not a believer. Otherwise, there's room. Okay, so what about the details then? So the details, we are obliged to believe in the details if they're authentic. If there's a sahih hadith from the Prophet that he said, in paradise there's this, you have to believe in it. Okay, but you look at the hadith and you say, is it authentic or is it not authentic? It's authentic. You're personally obliged to believe in it. But is it creed? Say it's creed once it reaches fact. If it's like 10 of the Sahaba said that, khalas, there's no room for error anymore. It's impossible, right? But whenever there's the tiniest room for error, it's no longer an issue of iman and kufr. Okay, and so we want to talk about hell. May Allah protect us all. And it's worth noting, we shouldn't say things like "what the hell," "what the heck," "darn it." Yeah, why is it in the past that you get licked for that, right? Why in the past? Because you're talking about something huge. When you say "darn it," mean may that person or may that thing be damned to hell forever. That's what you mean by "darn it." It's like, do you know what you're saying? Like, if you knew what you were saying, you would pass out. So oh, darn it, man, whatever. It's like, it's really like, you don't say stuff like that. So I start saying what the heck because I hear American. My son says, Mikhail says it. He's like, I tell him you can't say that. Why? Why can't you say that? I shouldn't be saying it to begin with, because you're treating something huge, like hellfire is super no joke, like super unbelievably no joke. And so you're like, oh, what the heck? It's like, it doesn't make sense. Like you're dealing with something that's dealing with something. It's not haram. It's just a phrase, right? It's just a haram, but it's not right. Right. So Christian, you might find some proper like Christians will be like, no, back in the day they would get that, get licking for that, get told off, all those kind of things. Because in the Bible is thou shalt not take the Lord, what's it called, the name of Lord, thou shalt not the God's name in vain, right? Talking about God in a like just casual way. You don't say that. It's like Allah is something big, right? In Islam there's more rahmah. We can say that, Wallah, I don't know. So why did you say that? Right? It's called lagh al-yamin, pointless vows. Wallahi, this is the best computer I've ever seen. You just say it. It's like, it doesn't mean, when you say, I swear by Allah, I'm not lying, that's like you're intending an oath. But if it's just a turn of phrase, Wallah, like really? Like, it doesn't really mean anything. Okay, but at the same time, we shouldn't do it. We shouldn't do that. So we want to talk very, very briefly, inshallah ta'ala, about being saved from the hellfire, the intense heat of the hellfire, the darkness of hell, the valleys and mountains of hell, its depth, chains in hell, the snakes in hell, the drink of the people of hell, the food of the people of hell, and we'll go through this one by one, inshallah ta'ala. So going through a fantastic book that really needs to be translated into English. It's called Targhib wa Tarhib al-Hafidh al-Mundhiri. One of the most important books for the lay Muslim. Super useful book. What he's talking about? Things you should be careful about, the things you should make sure you be doing in your life, based on the hadith. And he's like one of the greatest hadith scholars ever, right? Al-Hafidh al-Mundhiri. But it's in Arabic. It's only in Arabic. It's in Urdu as well. And I think I've seen an English translation somewhere in England, but it's like really bad. So it's kind of not really.
So work on it.
Inshallah. Ya Rabb.
We can publish it.
Inshallah. So anyway, so we're going to go. So how can you be safe from the hellfire? Anybody who dies on the shahada, anybody dies with believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will eventually come out of the hellfire. Okay. So they will not be down for hellfire. The question is, how can you guarantee that you will die with the shahada? That's the question. So classic idea, khalas, I'm just a sinful Muslim, I can just get on with it and just keep going. There's no guarantee that you will die on Iman. There's no guarantee that you die on Iman. So when you have this attitude, we spoke about before, what do we call it? Russian roulette. Calling Russian roulette with Allah, with your destiny. Like it's not an option. You can be a sinful Muslim in that we make mistakes. You get angry one day and say something you shouldn't say. Whatever, these kind of things that happen, right? You end up lying to get out of something and you're like, astaghfirullah, I shouldn't have said that. You fall on your nose, that's fine. But you cannot have it as my life is khalas, I just live with my girlfriend, that's it. I drink, that's it. Khalas, I celebrate Christmas, khalas, that's how I am. Right? You can't just have that as your life. Like, khalas, this is just how I am. This is my treat myself or self-care, you can't do that. It's haram. That can't be part of your life. You can't have a decision that's part of your life, because what's going to happen? You don't know what's going to happen. Inshallah, Allah will forgive you, just enter paradise without any question, inshallah. But who knows if you're not going to be punished in this life for your persistence in the haram by Allah taking your iman away. Iman is not your birthright. It's a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so you better act like it. And if you act like it, Allah will give you tawfiq. But if you don't act like it, that's the danger, right? So, and then there are people as well who will be sent to hellfire, who will die on Iman, and they'll be sent to hellfire, and they'll be taken out by the Shafa'at al-Kubra. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we don't have time to go through the whole thing, but on Yawm al-Qiyamah, the Prophet ﷺ will do sujood to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and be inspired with a very particular dua. And he'll be given the Shafa'at al-Kubra, the great intercession, and he'll take people out of the hellfire who are going to be there for years and years and years, hundreds of years. This person's just like a complete whatever. He's a believer though, and take him out. And then other people will intercede. Inshallah, Sa'ad will intercede for us, and Hafiz Shams and other people, right? People will intercede for us. And then the angels will intercede. And then the Rahman will say, the prophets have interceded and the righteous have interceded and the angel, and there's nothing left but the Rahman. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself will just take people out of hellfire for no reason. Not no reason, but just take people out who deserve to be there. And then there will be people who will remain, and then eventually anybody who has one atom's weight of Iman will come out. And then the doors will be closed, and the only people who remain there will be the kuffar. May Allah protect us all. Okay, so that's just that brief thing. So we're going to talk about that, the food of the people of hell, the ugliness of the people of hell, the least punishment of hell, the cries of the people of hell, leaving hell and remaining in hell forever. And then we're going to inshallah, talk about entering heaven, the levels of heaven, its rooms, and I don't know how we're going to do this, you have 28 minutes left. Its earth and stones, its rivers, its trees and fruits, food and drink in heaven, clothes in heaven, furniture in heaven, women of heaven, singing. Well, this is a beautiful thing. Everyone knows about the men here. There's women listening too, but everyone knows about the women of heaven. Did you ever hear about what the Prophet said about how they sing? The women of heaven, how they sing, right? Beautiful things. We're going to do just one hadith on each of these things, inshallah. Sing. Yeah.
I was going to say, can you just cut it? What's his name? Just do one by one and just continue on the series.
Yeah, but
do it in
okay, inshallah.
Detail, inshallah.
Inshallah.
And then we can make it a full series, inshallah.
Okay, so then I will try and do the first 3 things of each list today.
Perfect. Take your time on.
Yeah, because I just got one hadith on each.
This is really
inshallah. Okay, so Bismillah. So the first thing is the intense heat of hell. May Allah protect us all. So it's narrated from Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "This fire of yours that merely humans kindle is 1/70th of the heat of the hell of the fire of hell." So how hot does fire get? Well, I don't know what, molten lava, whatever that 400 degrees Fahrenheit or whatever 4,000 degrees Fahrenheit. That's 1/70th of the heat of the hellfire. قال والله إن كانت لكافٍ. They said that's enough, isn't it? Like that's crazy. And the Prophet ﷺ said it's been given on top of that, it's been given 69 times, each of them as hot as the other one, right? And so the hellfire is extremely hot, and this is narrated by Bukhari and Muslim and many others. So the heat of the hellfire is on another level, right? In London we say, dude, that's next. I don't know if you say that, next, bro. Like that's on another level, right? Another level. And then concerning the darkness of the hellfire, again, I'm just taking one hadith from a whole chapter. There's a whole chapter on the heat of hell, the whole chapter on the darkness of hell, whole chapter on these. I'm just taking one hadith. One hadith on the darkness of hell. That there's narrated from Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu that the Prophet ﷺ said, hellfire was kindled and made to burn for 1,000 years, and it became completely red hot. Made a kindle made to burn for another 1,000 years until it became white hot, and then it was burnt and kindled for another 1,000 years until it became completely black. And he said hellfire is boiling hot, but it is dark as a pitch black night. Now, to understand pitch black night, where do you have to go? Afghanistan, right? Or the desert. So the Sahaba, they're used to the desert when it's dark, like really dark. There is no light pollution whatsoever. May Allah protect us all. And the next hadith concerning the valleys of the hellfire and its mountains, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions many times in the Quran, wail. So wail in the Quran means woe unto so-and-so. But also woe unto so-and-so is actually a place. Right? So it comes in the hadith that the Prophet ﷺ said, wail, woe, oh no, big catastrophe, is actually the name of a valley in hellfire. يهوي فيه الكافر 40 خريفا قبل أن يبلغ قعره. He said a kafir will fall into this valley for 40 years, keep falling and 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 falling. He still doesn't reach the bottom. May Allah protect us all. And considering how deep the hellfire is, that the Prophet ﷺ gave in a khutbah, he mentioned a stone that was falling from the edge of precipice of hell, and was falling and falling and falling and falling and falling and falling for 70 years, and it still hadn't reached the end of it. So that shows us again the depth. I don't know how that is. Anybody does mathematics, find out the speed of a speed of a stone falling, how long that works for 70 years. Right? It's extremely deep. And on the topic of the snakes and scorpions in the hellfire, that the Prophet ﷺ said, indeed, and the word indeed is used. You hear this all the time in Arabic, inna, inna, inna. The word inna means you're not listening to me or you don't believe me. Right? So I say, my name is Farid. Ismi Farid. You say, really? So you're like, inna ismi Farid. My name is actually Farid. You're like, nah, it's not. I don't believe you. Inna ismi la Farid. My name is actually Farid. Right? So if I say something normally, I'll just say Qala Zayd. Inna Zaydan Qala means Zayd did actually say that, and I know you don't really believe me. Right? So the Prophet ﷺ was telling them, guys, I know you don't really believe me, but it's actually the case that there are snakes. There are snakes in the hellfire that are like little camels. They're the size of little camels, and when they sting you, you will feel that for 70 years. That snake bite continue there. And indeed, in hellfire there are scorpions that are like the size of a mule, right? And what's significant about a mule is it's big, but also extremely strong, right? So a scorpion the size of a mule, right? And the same thing, when it stings you, you'll feel it for 40 years. And considering on the topic of the drink of the people of the hellfire, right? It mentions in the Quran that the drink is muhl. What is muhl? Is like the sediments of olive oil. That sediment. It's kind of this very gritty, horrible thing. When it goes close to their face, it removes their face. So it gets so hot that all their face melts off, and then it goes back again, and it comes back again, and it comes back again. Yeshwil wujuh, right? Frying faces, and that's what it meant. Prophet explaining us, right? So this thing. Understand is just okay. If I keep doing what I'm doing now, do I want to deal with that? Number one. Number two, do I want to deal with that and knowing that there isn't any exit? Like, that's it. Because that's what's going to happen when the doors close and you're like, oh man, I seriously messed up. Like, you don't want to deal with this for a moment, let alone something else, right? And so, we always have to have this. This is called taqwa, right? So there's paranoia. Oh my God, Allah's out to get me. Everything's najas in my life. Everything's haram in my life. I'm a kafir. Oh my God, I just moved the computer and the computer had Quran in it. I didn't have wudu. That's called paranoia, right? As opposed to taqwa, which is wake up, like, because things are really concerning, right? And they say in Arabic, man khafa adlaj. Whoever's genuinely scared and has like worried about something gets up pretty early in the morning to travel. So I know I'm going to be attacked in the morning. Take the means, right? So means whoever's scared expresses that fear in practical ways, as opposed to like, oh, whatever, right? So again, all the process told us these things in order to just say there's not just a terrible punishment, but there's a terrible punishment that we all have to kind of like wake up to. And again, it's of our iman to shudder, right? Of our feeling of iman is that the augustness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Jalaluddin Rumi said, well, if you read Jalaluddin Rumi, talks about love and love and love and love and love and love. It's like, if Allah is all about love, then what's hellfire about? He answered, he said, have you seen where the king hangs people? So that shows how tough the king is. You don't want to mess with this king. If you mess in my city, you're going to be hung. That's how it works. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he said, if you mess with me, here's hellfire. This is called my jalal. This is my punishment. Right? Do not mess with me. Allah is not someone to mess with. Right? And so that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so it's part of that dread and awe and fear is part of our healthy iman, right? But it shouldn't reach the level of paranoia. So how do we know we have paranoia? Is your judgment aren't making sense. You realize that there's only one believer in the face of the earth, you. You realize that everything is haram, that no mosque is valid, that there's no Muslims left, there's no people talk about. It's not like that, right? The deen is always practical and always applicable. It's sometimes a little bit difficult in certain scenarios, but it's not impossible. So when you have a creation like, oh my God, this, therefore this, it's like, no, it's not like that. The deen is never that complex. When it comes to najasa, it's never that complex. When it comes to halal, haram, it's not that complex. It's not that complex. Okay. And there's many other things about what the people in the hellfire will drink. Concerning the food of the people of hellfire, it mentions zaqum. Right, zaqum is one of the food of the hellfire. And so the Prophet ﷺ said, if one little crumb or one little drop of this zaqum landed on earth would be uninhabitable. You wouldn't be able, it's just not, you wouldn't be able to live here anymore. Right? So again, it's like something of another order. Right, so he says, فَكَيْثَ بِمَنْ يَكُونُ طَعَامُهُ. How should it be with somebody who eats that stuff on a daily basis? That's their food. Right, that's their food. So if one drop would land on earth, the earth would be khalas, finished. Forget ozone layer, forget spilling. One little drop would ruin the whole earth. Right? And this is someone who's, that's the only food they're going to have. And then considering the ugliness of the people in the hellfire, and this is very important, very important when you look particularly at the opposite sex. Right? You look at somebody, a beautiful woman or a beautiful man who is a sinful, who's fasiq, who's a corrupt person. They're selling their body for MTV or whatever it is. Part of an iman is introspection, seeing what's beyond the veil. What's the reality of that person? The reality, the Prophet told us that the reality of the bad breath when you're smelling is that it's really beautiful in Allah's eyes. That's the reality. It actually smells nice. The reality is not that it's a bad smell, it's nice. The reality of a woman who knows about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and is doing something haram, or a man, either of the two, who's doing something, who's showing their body and it's very beautiful and very attractive. The reality is they are vile and disgusting. True iman is you could smell, may Allah inshallah forgive them, you could smell their flesh rotted, burning in hellfire, and you get turned off. So this is we're gonna it's part of our iman as well, is that we're not attracted to disgusting things. That's part of iman, right? So we find that the imagery of women in paradise, for example, qasirat al-tarf, they look down. No one else has ever slept with them. That they're reserved. So you see, there's a prostitute. The believer, in his iman, is not attracted to a prostitute because it's not attractive. That is not attractive, right? They might be attracted to someone else's wife. That's possible because she's a righteous woman and she's whatever, and he lowers his gaze. That's possible because she has Muslim attributes. He's not attracted to a prostitute because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't fit his fitrah thing. And so yeah, you might be, and that's not haram. But the thing is, there's a problem in your paradigm, right? Just like a woman who finds a drunk man attractive is well, you don't know those kind of things. What kind of women are really like pedophiles? Like, I just want to marry a pedophile. Like, they're so hot. It's like, even if he's handsome, even if he's this, it's like, you just can't put it in your head because it's just so disturbing. Same thing. If you know what it is, you're just not interested, right? So it mentions that Abdullah ibn Amr ibn As, he said that were a person from the hellfire to come to the dunya. So someone is in the hellfire, we take him out and bring him to the dunya. لَمَاتَ أَهْلُ الدُّنْيَا مِنْ وَحْشِةِ مَنْظَرِهِ. Everyone on the face of the earth would pass out and die because of the grotesqueness of the image. It would be so shocking that you would die. So you take someone out of the hellfire and you look at him, and it's not it in whatever. Forget every single horror film. Ever was it Hellraiser, whatever, every single horror thing you think about, a person in the hellfire is but one person, you take him out there, everybody earth would just die because it's so unbelievably grotesque and horrible, right? And then they would die, and from the stench of his smell, ثُمَّ بَكَى عَبْدُ اللَّهِ بُكَاءً شَدِيدًا. And then what did he do? The person who's telling us this, Abdullah ibn Amr ibn As, he cried and he cried. He was shaken, right? Shaken to tears, right? And the ulama, they mentioned every single thing has a sign, right? What's the sound? A, the letter A. Letter A is a sign of the A. What's the sign of, for example, civilization? Oh, you have buildings, you have this, you have that. Everything you're saying has a sign, and the sign of being God-forsaken is that you no longer cry, right? So we see that with the Sahaba, crying is normal. It was a normal thing that they would cry. So the sign of being God-forsaken is that you no longer cry. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Okay, I'm just going to go to paradise a little bit. So we haven't finished that yet, inshallah. There's a lot more to do, but inshallah we'll go on to paradise a little bit because it's nice to talk about. So we'll just maybe do 5 minutes on paradise. Just want to do one last thing on hellfire and then come back to it, inshallah, actually. Yeah. She say, khalas, I'll take a risk. I'll just go to hellfire. No big deal, right? Inshallah, Allah Sa'ad will make dua for me and I'll get out the second day, inshallah. I come out and bail, right? Okay, what is the least punishment in the hellfire? What is the least punishment in the hellfire? So it's narrated in Bukhari and Muslim, so super sahih hadith, that the Prophet ﷺ said, indeed, it is actually the case, the lightest punishment in the hellfire is the following. That 2 coals will be put on your feet and your feet will burn and burn and burn and burn until your brain boils. That is the least punishment in the hellfire. Right? يَلْغِي مِنْهُ دِمَاغُ كَمَا يَلْغِي الْمِرْجَلْ بِالْقُمْقُمْ. Right? It says that it will boil. Right? So we mentioned this is, again, you do not have the, it's not, you don't have, it's not a vote. It's not, Allah is not, you do not have a democratic relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You know, you have a democratic vote. You can, for example, you want to go to jail? Okay, speed. That's fine. You want to go to jail for your life? Go and kill someone. It's up to you. That's how it works. With Allah, you can't do this. It's not like, well, what's it worth? You know, you might say, honestly, I would go to jail for life to kill that guy. Okay, it's up to you. That's how it works. With Allah, you can't do that. It's listen, obey, or else. Right? But Allah is the most merciful, So we pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will forgive us despite our sins and make us people of Iman, inshallah. Okay, and then there's lots of details there, but then about maybe just 5 minutes here, we'll just try and read this. About those who enter paradise. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, on the day that we will gather all the muttaqeen, people who actively feared and warded off Allah's punishment, they're all gathered. Where are they taken to? They're taken to the Rahman. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the strangest way, He says, we, who is Allah, so we're going to take them, all the muttaqeen, and take them to the Rahman. That's Him, right? Take it in wafda, in a throng. And it comes to the end of the verse. And so one of the Sahaba, this is Sayyidina Ali, he said, Ya O Messenger of Allah, right? What? That's just a group of people, right? What's going on? So the Prophet ﷺ said, I swear by Him in whose soul is in hand is my soul. Indeed, they will come out of their graves, and there will be these people of taqwa. They will be received by nice, beautiful white camels that have wings, and they are tied with gold. And their straps on their shoes will be made out of light, and they will shine every single time they step. And every single time that they take a step, though, it's so easy. It will be a beautiful and honored experience coming out of the grave for the muttaqeen. And they come all the way to the gate of paradise. And then, lo and behold, on the gate of paradise will be a ruby door knocker covered in gold. And then there will be a tree there from which 2 springs will come out, and they will go and drink. They'll go and drink from this spring that's next to the door of paradise, and their faces will shine with happiness. And when they wash, everything will go away from their bodies, and they will hear this beautiful. And the Prophet ﷺ said, if only you were to hear, Ali, he speaks to him, if only you were to hear that beautiful sound, right? فَيَبْلُغُ نظرة النعيم تشعث عنهم أبدا فيضربون حلقة في الصحيح فلو سمعت طنين حلق يا علي فيبلغ كل حوراء أن زوجها قد أقبل. So then when that door is knocked, every single beautiful maiden of paradise says, your husband has come. Right? And زوجها قد أقبل فيستخفها العجل, and she's waiting, where? فتبعث قيمها فيفتح الباب. And she sends somebody who's in charge of her, please go and open the door. فلولا أن الله عز وجل عرفه نفسه لخر له ساجدا مما يرى من النور والبهاء. So this little boy who's in charge of her, he comes to receive this guest, her husband, and he said, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hadn't told this boy who Allah was, the little boy would prostrate to you, to this person entering paradise, because he's so beautiful, this man coming into paradise, so amazing. Right? مما يرى من النور والبهاء, of beautiful shine. فيقول أنا قيمك الذي وكلت بأمرك. I'm in charge of you. So he's a steward basically. And so he'll come and follow him and take him to his wife, and فتخرج من الخيمة, and she'll come out of the tent and she will hug him. وتقول أنت حبي وأنا حبك. أنت حبي وأنا حبك. I am the one that you love and you are the one that I love. أنا الراضية فلا أسخط عنه أبدا. I am the one who is content and I will never be angry. وأنا الناعمة فلا أبأس أبدا. And I am of beautiful, very smooth and beautiful, so I never become old. And وأنا الخالدة فلا أذعن أبدا. And I'm the one who lives forever, so I'll never go away. فيدخل بيتا من أساسه في 100,000 ذراع مبنيين. I keep going and going, but this is basically how did it start? They come out, the muttaqeen. What does that mean? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, what's the verse? يوم نحشر متقين إلى الرحمن وفدا. How is it that you are greeted out of the grave by these amazing creatures of huge camels that are beautiful and white, like Pegasus basically, that covered in gold and red, and taken to this beautiful gate. And this is just the beginning. This is just the entree, right? And it keeps going. Let's just try and find a good place to pause, and we can come back to this. It mentions all these things. وَجَنَّتَيْنِ دَانٍ. And I just wanted to mention that one of the last things, which we'll come back to inshallah, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قال الله عز وجل أعددت لعبادي الصالحين ما لا عين رأت ولا أذن سمعت ولا خطر على قلب بشر واقرأوا إن شئتم فلا تعلم نفس ما أخفي لهم من قرة أعين. So in Bukhari Muslim super Sahih hadith that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said, I have prepared for my righteous slaves that which no eye has ever seen and no ear has ever heard, right? And no brain could ever understand. So you say a beautiful woman, yeah, I can understand that. I can understand what that is. There's way more than that, right? So you have this question, okay, well, what do women get? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Kareem. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Kareem. You can't even understand what He's got for you. So, well, I didn't read anything about handsome men. It's like, just chill out, because that was just the description was the least of it. That what you could understand, the fact that you could understand it, in fact you had one inkling of what it meant, means that was the very least of it. There is so much more, right? So, وَقْرَأُوا إِنْ شِئْتُمْ. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, عَدَمُ نَفْسٌ مَا أُخْفِيَ لَهُم مِّن قُرَّةِ أَعْيُنٍ. Not a single soul knows. Not a single soul knows for him of that, the happiness that makes him cry. Qarar al-ayn has two meanings. Qarar al-ayn means you look at that thing, you don't look at anything else. That's just what the apple of your eye. Qarar al-ayn can also mean from qarra to mean baruda, to become cold. The Arabs, they say cry out of happiness, it cools your eye, as opposed to when you cry out of sadness, it's hot. So they say you look at something and you're like, subhanallah, and you just can't even imagine, this is so unbelievably amazing. Every single thing worked out perfectly, just beyond it, and you cry and cry and cry out of happiness, right? That's qurrat al-ayn. So you can't even figure, right? And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned many of these things for us to understand, to give us a picture. In reality, we can't understand how terrible Allah's punishment is, and you can't possibly understand how tremendous Allah's reward is. What you can understand is when that door closes. Are you on this side or that side, right? And so this is what we have to be always careful. Is you see how you're doing a sunnah, be very careful of leaving that sunnah, because you leave that sunnah, you're going to go to makruh. You leave the makruh, you're going to go to haram. You can leave that haram, you're going to kufr. So you're always trying to go this way and you slip. That's fine. Don't worry about it. Get back up again. Get back up again. But you're always going to the right. And whenever you feel going to the left, you're scared. We should be concerned. If you missed the sunnah today, be concerned that tomorrow you're going to miss the same thing. Right? كَفَى بِنَفْسِكَ وَاعِذًا. Right? You are the best person to give yourself an admonition. What happened yesterday? Right? Slipping, right? And so you have to be very careful what's happening. And so the stakes are unbelievable. The stakes are unbelievable. right? And so we need to understand how tremendous Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, and how tremendous the reward is, how beautiful, and everything's going to work out if we keep working. But if we slip, and then we keep slipping, and we slip again, and we slip again, and we don't wake up, it's very, very dangerous. Inshallah, we'll stop here. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. Inshallah, we'll try and maybe next week we'll do the same lesson, inshallah, but we'll just go through the other details, inshallah.
Whole list to go from help.
Yeah.
Jazakallah khair. This is really, really beneficial. I really benefit from it.